This is all in the possession of law enforcement, but it's been held pretty close to the vest.
As you may already know, on May 9th of 2025, Dateline NBC released a brand new episode about the Idaho quadruple homicides that took place on November 13th of 2022. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, maybe you can't see it, and I'll get into that in a moment. In this video, I'm going to go over what did we learn from that episode that was new.
It has not been out in public at all.
And I'm going to be going over the timeline that they shared in the episode, because some of that obviously includes new information. I've never heard it before. They say, of course, some of it is exclusive, never before seen. So we're going to discuss that. My name is Grizzly K. I'm South African. I live in Switzerland. And what that means is I can't watch Dateline. Did you know that? If you live outside of the USA, you can't watch it. Even if they release it, which they did on Peacock the next day, you can't watch it. Thankfully, I have an American friend who hooked me up. Thank you, Grizzly Cat, for helping me be able to watch it. I really appreciate that. But I know not everyone will be able to. So, what can you do? You can listen to it. There'll be a full podcast episode released normally about a week later. So it should be around May 16th of 2025 on all podcast platforms, obviously by Dateline NBC. So then you can listen to it. I would highly recommend, however you can get hold of this episode, watch it on Dateline, watch it on Peacock, or listen to the full episode when it comes out. There's a lot of information that was shared, a lot that I'd never heard before, and I do think it's very interesting. Now, if you are not familiar with this case, all you got to do is check out the description box. There's a case background right up there for you. You can also find a link to the playlist that I've made for you, and you'll see there we've done lots of deep dives on this case. So go and check that out if you want to get all caught up before this case goes to trial, which is actually pretty soon. By the time we look again, the trial would have started. Jury selection is starting on June 30th of 2025. I know many of you are just like, why did we learn that was new? Just tell us. Just tell us. So let's look at what was new. Please note that this content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share. So there was new, never before seen surveillance footage of the alleged vehicle that was shown. I'm sure you've already seen video clips.
It has not been out in public at all.
Like these security videos from a camera on a house near the murder scene.
But yeah, the vehicle, just going round and round and round, past the house and all of that. It's kind of eerie, especially if you think that, wow, that is the alleged vehicle of the alleged killer, So it gives you those predatory vibes and almost, somebody working their way up to what they're about to do, which is absolutely horrendous. New ominous selfies and digital evidence, new interviews with acquaintances, which is why you got to watch the full episode, because that in itself is interesting, hearing from the acquaintances, from the experts that they had on, and of course from Keith Morrison, who just narrates and presents these cases better than I think anyone else can. So then, new insights into Kohberger's mind, new timeline details, which is why we're looking at what's new and what's the timeline.
Almost have a timeline of his movements and the movements of the killer, whether it was him or not, in the days, hours, minutes leading up to the murder and afterwards.
We love timelines over here. If you like timelines, please like and share, including phone calls with his dad 2 hours after the murders. That one surprised me. I want to hear those phone calls. I wonder if they'll play that at the trial. I wonder if they have those phone calls. Oh my goodness. And new, previously unreported brutality and blood on a chair in Xana's room. What? Now, Dateline, May 9th, 2025. This episode is called The Terrible Night on King Road. The first episode they did was actually called Killings in a College Town. It was season 31, episode 14. So if you're looking for it and you're like, there you go, that's what I needed. Okay, pleasure. I'm glad you could find it quicker. Aired January 13th of 2023. This episode covered the initial investigation, including remarks from friends, family, and former acquaintances of Kohberger, focusing on the early evidence and timeline. Then they released another one, The Killings on King Road. It aired on May 19th of 2023. So this is the episode, okay? 2-hour special, about 90 minutes. And so that one is one I reacted to. That's on the playlist if you want to go check it out. This episode provided updates on the investigation, new information, and insights from an FBI profiler, a psychologist, and others about the type of person who might commit such a crime. And now the new one, The Terrible Night on King Road, aired May 9th of 2025.
A lot of this material that the prosecution will rely on, I think, to try him. I don't know. I don't know. We can't say that we have it all, but we have a lot of it. And we can help.
A 2-hour special, I thought it was about 90 minutes, 2 hours. Maybe it was a 2-hour special with lots more ads, featuring exclusive new details, never before seen surveillance video, cell phone records, and interviews with former students and acquaintances. So here's the thumbnail for it if you're looking for it on wherever you're going to find it. If you live in America, lucky you. Idaho murders victims. I want to make sure that we know who this case is about and that everybody should have the same goal of wanting justice for the victims. Now, I know in this case, that has many divided opinions. All opinions are welcome here. Please just don't fight with each other. Some people think they've got the wrong guy. Some people think that more people are involved. Some people think that he's the right guy. But either way, Bryan Kohberger is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So we'll have to wait and see what evidence they present at the trial and what the outcome will be. But the victims in this case, oh my goodness, Ethan Chapin, 20 years old, Xana Kernodle, 20 years old, Madison Mogen, 21, and Kaylee Goncalves, 21. Now, the Dateline episode speculates based on their law enforcement sources and, they've got some connections. They say that they believe that Madison Mogen was the target of the killer. That they went into the home, went upstairs, straight to Maddie's room, and that's who they were intending to murder. But then Kaylee was there, and she was in Maddie's room, and she was, they were in the same bed, and so they were saying that may have, given the killer a fright, but they still went ahead and did what they did. And we'll get into more of those speculations a little bit later in this presentation. First, let's just do a real quick recap of the case. 4 University of Idaho students were murdered in their off-campus home at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. There were 6 students in the home. 4 were murdered: Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Goncalves. They were allegedly stabbed. That's what they said happened to them, right? There's some debate of whether 1 weapon was used or 2. I guess we'll find out at the trial. 2 of the people who lived in the home, 2 of the roommates, were unharmed. DM and BF. They do use their full names in the Dateline episode, but I don't know. I still stick to the initials like the court documents do, right? The murders occurred between 4:07 a.m. and 4:20 a.m. The murder weapon has not been found, but a knife sheath was found under Madison Mogen's body. A suspect, Bryan Christopher Kohberger, he was 28 years old at the time, was arrested on December 30th of 2022 in Pennsylvania. Obviously, that's where he grew up, and that's where his family lives, and that's where he went home for the holidays in December of 2022. He was a PhD student in criminal justice and criminology from Washington State University in Pullman, Washington. Keep that in mind, because sometimes with the Google searches, I know it can go either way. Like, was he Googling certain things because that's what he was studying, and you know what I mean? Or is it because he had, I don't know, a certain fascination with something or someone, or was trying to explore who he really was? Lots to speculate on there. So when is the trial? Bryan Kohberger has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary for unlawfully entering the house with the intent to commit a felony. His trial is scheduled to start with jury selection on June 30th of 2025. Opening statements are scheduled for August 11th of 2025 in Ada County, Idaho, and it's set to last until November 7th of 2025 because it also includes the penalty phase of the trial. He faces the death penalty. So how that works is normally then there will be 2 phases of the trial if it's a death penalty case. First, it's the guilt or innocence phase. I mean, he could be found innocent for all we know. If he's found guilty, then they move on to the next phase, which is the punishment phase. And there, the jury will have to re-listen to evidence, aggravating and mitigating factors, and then they're going to have to deliberate on whether he should be sentenced to death or not. Like, sure, that must be difficult. I don't know if I want to be in their shoes. They have a huge task ahead of them and a lot of time that they'll be obviously, spending on this trial. Shame. Okay, so, but very important, of course. The final pretrial conference is set for May 15th of 2025. A hearing remains scheduled for, and there's my first typo in my presentation, November 7th of 2025 for argument on motions challenging the death penalty. And the judge is Stephen Hippler. And it seems to me like this trial will happen then, because he's pretty adamant that it's going to, that there's no more delays to be expected, but I'm still skeptical. I think there could still be more delays. We shall see. In the past, Kohberger had posted, now this is from Dateline, okay? The first two slides we just looked at, that was my summary, just a quick recap of the case and when the trial's going to start. Now we're diving into the Dateline details, so are you ready? In the past, Kohberger had posted about seeing himself as a sickly, tired, useless, and stupid man. Now, we have looked at his Tapa Talk posts before, and so we've looked at quite a few quotes from there. This was one that they shared in this episode. He bought the K-bar knife, the sheath, and the sharpener in March of 2022. He moved to Pullman, Washington in June of 2022. He took photos of the Elantra before he left Pennsylvania, and he took photos of his apartment complex on June 30th of 2022 when he arrived. Now, when he arrives, he unpacks, he's meeting a couple of his neighbors. And one of them so happens to be a DJ who has been asked to DJ at a pool party. He's in conversation with Kohberger. He says, hey, do you want to come to the pool party? And Kohberger goes, even though Kohberger says, according to all these legal documents, we've been reading all of that, that he said he is on the autism spectrum, that he has OCD, and that, he's a bit socially awkward. He went.
He went to a pool party, for example, and there was an incident at the pool party which was just kind of strange and unsettling for the people who were there.
For a moment, I'm going to just give him credit and say that would take courage, right? For someone like him, based on what we know. So he went to this pool party. Unfortunately, it didn't go so well because he made many people quite uncomfortable. The DJ himself said that he was asking him a lot of, almost like interrogating him about DJing and all the equipment and everything, and he got really locked onto that topic. And eventually the DJ was like, I gotta go. Like, I actually have to DJ now. So he felt a little bit like he was, not really reading the room with boundaries and all that. And then he made a couple of women at the pool party also feel uncomfortable. So go check out the episode if you want to learn more about that. Now, interestingly, they said the first ping near the 1122 King Road residence, which is where the murders occurred, what happened that night after the party. So that's interesting because I don't think that anyone from the house was actually at the party. So I'm not sure if he was just like driving around the area, because of course there's lots of arguments about, was he really like 100 meters, radius from the home? Was he really near the home that night, or was he just driving in the area? I don't know. We'll have to wait for the trial. But the thing is, it's interesting that he goes to the pool party and he sees all these women in bikinis, which is something that he frequently researched, which again, tell me a guy, he was 28 at the time, like, is he not going to be doing that? If he's a straight man, is he not going to be looking at women in bikinis on? I don't know. But anyway, he was apparently like screenshotting things, and he had been looking at pictures of people who were connected to the victim, like friends of. So he was looking at pictures of WSU and University of Idaho students, girls, posting themselves all over Instagram. But I don't know. I'm not trying to make excuses for him. I'm just saying, but like, isn't that what all the college guys are doing? Moving on, they said that he went to, close to the home that night. So interesting. Then later he runs, not that night, I don't know exactly the timeline of this, but he ran into the DJ on a hike. So the thing is, the DJ and his friends went on a hike, and they were coming down this hill and leaving the area because they'd done a day of hiking, and they're going home because it's now dark. But then Kohberger crosses paths with him, but he's going in. He's like starting his hike at night. So they all found that quite strange. They also said that he recognized everyone and spoke to them like they were close friends, and they didn't recognize him at first. Which again, just for a moment, I feel sad for him because he's like all enthusiastic. Oh, hey, he's trying to mingle with people, and they're just like, who are you? But also because like, why are you going, up this hill at night? Well, I don't know, because he can't, because he's a night owl. He likes stargazing, running at night, driving at night. Isn't that part of his defense? That was a rhetorical question. So yeah, he liked the nighttime. Okay, he definitely was a night owl. I would assume, obviously, it's cooler temperatures, there's less people, who knows. Okay, so now let's look at August of 2022. On August 16th, he Googles Ted Bundy, which I think goes in line with his studies, does it not? Maybe he has a special fascination with Ted Bundy, which definitely was speculated in this Dateline episode, and there's a little bit more evidence as to why that might be the case, but it's still speculation. And then he downloads a WSU professor's paper. It's not Catherine Ramsland, right? Because she was at DeSales University, not at WSU. It was a different professor, and the paper that she wrote was Ted Bundy on the Malignant Being. Apparently, he belittled that professor quite a bit, said she couldn't speak English properly. She has like a French surname. So anyway, so there's some problems, that he was causing there. On the same day, Madison Mogen posts an Instagram photo with her roommates, potentially seen by Kohberger browsing similar profiles, which I think we went over before, that there's no direct link to the victims online. And that's also what they said, in the documents and at the hearings. But maybe he could see some of their pictures because he was screenshotting other students' pictures, and they were actually friends with Madison, Kaylee, or Xana, who lived in the home where the murders occurred. On August 21st, he was ticketed for not wearing a seatbelt near King Road, which was at 11:40 p.m. Some of this we already knew. And then on August 26th, he Googles, when can a cop detain you? That one I don't find so weird either. I suppose, if you look at each individual thing in this case, each individual little fact, maybe it doesn't seem like a big deal. I guess if you put it all together, it starts getting quite interesting in the case against him, of course. But some of these things are very normal. I'm sure many of us have searches like that, or even looking up Ted Bundy, whatever it is, because we follow true crime. And I mean, this guy was getting his PhD in criminology. Then this gets quite weird. They said, and these are allegations, but based on the evidence they've seen, in late August, he searches pornography with words like forced, passed out, drugged, or sleeping, tied to power, domination, and control. It could be if he was really looking that up for his own pleasure. However, if he's the suspect in these crimes, that obviously doesn't match that fantasy, right? Although they were in their beds supposedly sleeping, so maybe. But it could also be that that's just part of his studies, for all we know. Now, in September of 2022, there was a colleague who shared an office with him, Na Young Ko, and she said that she felt her apartment had been broken into. She'd baked a cake, she had burnt the cake, she left it on the oven, and then when she got back home, the cake was in the microwave. So the cake had been moved, and she lived alone. And then her cosmetics in the bathroom had been neatly arranged, but on top of the toilet. Okay, and then a watch and a personal letter was stolen. Now, who did she call? Because she was scared. It was late at night. She called Kohberger, who she actually said she felt something for, but he actually turned her down. So that was interesting to hear. She wasn't part of this episode. She didn't want to comment or be on camera, is what they said. But yeah, the shame. They showed her a picture, so there she is. And so I can't imagine what she's thinking now in hindsight. Like, what? I shared an office with him. And then the thing is, she called Kohberger. He said he thinks she needs a security system. And so we've heard about this before, but now we actually have a little bit more context. He helped her install a security system so that she could even see in her apartment from her phone. But she later wondered to herself, wait a minute. Like, he knew about that personal letter, so maybe it was him. And now, did he install that security system on his phone? Can he watch my apartment from his phone? We don't know the answers to that. We actually literally don't know if it was at all him. Did he break in? Did he steal the things or not? Or was he really just helpful? We don't know. But it was quite interesting to hear about that as well. Now, late September, Kohberger is struggling at WSU as a teaching assistant. There are complaints for sexism. He's belittling that professor we spoke about earlier, allegedly. And he was apparently grading specifically female students very harshly and up to his PhD standards. So an FBI profiler, as part of this episode, said that these are precipitating stressors, which they could be. A lot of stress building up in his life, of course. September 30th, he Googles sociopathic traits in college students. Was it part of his studies, or was it something that he was looking up for, to study himself? We don't know. October of 2022. He was browsing Instagram photos of WSU or Idaho University women, blondes and brunettes in bikinis, including the victim's friends. He continues the pornography searches with drugged and sleeping as terms. On October 14th, he was pulled over for running a red light on the WSU campus.
But in that situation, the best thing to do then would be back up and not...
I don't know if there's a best thing to do in that situation, because you're either going to back up into somebody or you're going to run a red light. And
on October 19th, he Googles, can psychopaths behave pro-socially? So you know what I'm going to say. Is that part of his studies? Is it like research for his studies, or is he trying to understand himself? On November 2nd, a female WSU student reports him to faculty for confronting her or following her to her vehicle, which made her uncomfortable. Wow, to the point where she's reporting him? I don't know what that was really all about. And so the dean calls him in and explains this improvement plan that they're now going to be implementing with him because, he's not doing so well in his role as a TA. On November 7th, his phone pings near King Road for the alleged 23rd time. So what they're implying in the episode is that it's like very close to the house. But apparently for the 23rd time in 4 months being around that house. On November 10th, Bryan Kohberger allegedly stops using his debit card. We've discussed that and read documents about that just recently. And he starts with anti-forensic actions on his work computer. And on November 11th, he clears his school computer. So if he managed to actually do that, interesting. But as we know, they could probably extract information from there, even if he cleared it. Now, November 13th of 2022, that's obviously the night of the murders. On the right-hand side, there's a screenshot of their 3D animation, which was actually really good. So if you watch the episode, you'll see what I mean. And then on the bottom right would be a screenshot of the surveillance footage of the vehicle. So this is a more detailed timeline now. They said at 2:54 a.m., BK means Bryan Kohberger, right? BK's phone is turned off. So not like it loses signal or whatever. It's turned off is what they said. 3:26 to 4:07 a.m., surveillance video shows a vehicle circling King Road 6 times and eventually parking nearby. It's speculated that the killer enters via the sliding door and goes upstairs. That's where they say they believe that Madison Mogen was the target. They then say it's speculation that okay, so if he went upstairs and his plan was to, and by he I mean the killer, right? If the killer went upstairs and the plan was to attack Madison Mogen, because Kaylee wasn't really actually going to be there that weekend. She was just visiting to show off her new Range Rover. So now if the killer enters the room, it says, whoa, okay, there's 2 females here. He must have had a moment of pause, but still went through with it. Now, Kaylee's dad has recently shared that she was punched in the face, that the killer punched her so hard that they broke her nose, and that the punches to the face could have already been enough to kill her. So that sounded very, very hectic. And so they say that there must have been quite a struggle, although documents say that Madison Mogen was likely too intoxicated to fight back. Anyway, so then they speculate in this episode that maybe Xana, who was in the kitchen on TikTok, that's what they said, because you remember she received the DoorDash order, heard something going on upstairs and went upstairs to see what was happening, and that then a chase ensued, and maybe that's why the killer left the sheath behind. It's all very interesting. I mean, I think it's quite plausible, but I mean, there's also so many other scenarios to consider. But that's interesting. And then they're saying chased Xana. Not that we heard DM describing anything like that, like hearing chasing or screaming or anything. But was Xana chased? And then apparently there a big struggle. They said it was one hell of a struggle. Happened with Xana, and she was found in a large pool of blood, which I know people are going to say, well, then why didn't the surviving roommates, why didn't they call 911? Didn't they see the large pool of blood? It depends, because they just say that they just saw her legs, right? So I don't know. But here's the thing. They said that Ethan was in bed, and they think that he was sleeping or passed out or whatever, and the killer attacked one of his main arteries, and then went this extra brutal step of carving his lower legs, which they say in special anger. And then they shared that there was an imprint of blood left on a chair in the room. So they're saying it's as if the killer sat down for a second, which the experts said could be because they were so tired, of course, of now attacking 4 people. Which could be why they didn't then further attack DM and BF. Anyway, let me know what you think about all that. So at 4:17 a.m., the neighbor's camera captures a whimper, a thud, and a barking dog. So Dateline actually has the video and the audio, so it's from the same angle as that surveillance, but they actually played some of that audio. At 4:20 a.m., the vehicle departs at high speed. They said so fast that he almost hit someone, but I don't know if someone was actually there or not. I didn't see someone there, but so fast that he almost hit someone. And then at 4:48 a.m. to 5:39 a.m., the phone reactivates and pings south of Moscow, then Johnson and Pullman. As we know, we've done lots of map time on that, so if you didn't see those episodes, go check it out. Now here's the thing. On November 13th at 6:17 a.m., he calls his dad. They say, so the phone is registered to his dad, but it is a family account. So there's a little bit of room that I think the defense will obviously work with if they bring that up, which I'm sure they will, that it could have been anyone else that he called in the house. But Dateline alleges he called his dad for 36 minutes. That's like 2 hours after the murders, calling his dad that early for 36 minutes. He made 3 calls to his dad or family that morning. The longest lasted 54 minutes. Now, my thought that I had when I heard that was, well, firstly, obviously, what were they talking about? I want to know. I'm so curious, like, what was he saying there? And how did he sound? How did he sound? But the thought I had was maybe he had called his dad to try to now start arranging this trip home, because the dad, remember, flew from Pennsylvania to Washington and then drove home with Kohberger.
He was right up on the back end of that van, pulled you over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay.
So BK's phone was briefly back in Moscow at 9:12 a.m. for 9 minutes. So I wonder, again, I'm speculating, if he went back, we've said this before, we have gone back to the house, A, to see if there was like a large police presence already. I'm sure no one would have guessed that no one would have called 911 yet at that point, right? So maybe he was expecting to see like a big hype around the house, or did he go back to see if maybe he could get the knife sheath? I don't think so. That would be very risky. But why do you think if he went back to the house? Then he took the selfie we've gone over before in a bathroom mirror at 10:31 a.m. And remember the quote we went over before from the Tupper Talk website, right? The Dr. Gary Brucato was saying that this picture to him is like, wow, now he doesn't see himself as this like sickly man. Now it's like thumbs up in the bathroom mirror with a shower behind him, of course, like proud of himself, but obviously we don't know. But yeah, that selfie was taken, and then more selfies were taken, which we'll go over. Like, look at this. November 13th, he Googles. Whoa, like 2 days later, he's Googling University of Idaho murders. He searches a K-bar sheath on Amazon. Yeah, that's quite a coincidence. That's very interesting. November 18th, he views Ted Bundy's The Perfect Killing Machine. There's obviously more that he was watching. I have no idea if he was watching Grizzly True Crime or not, but I really actually hope not. But he was watching Unsolved No More. Detective Ken Mains, right? And he's got an entire playlist of Ted Bundy episodes. So this is the episode that they showed in the Dateline video that they say Kohberger was watching this one in particular.
At what I believe of all the serial killers that I have studied, the most intelligent, methodical, and prepared.
On the same day, he replaces the Elantra plates and he takes photos of the change. So that seems to be a consistent thing that he does, is like, here's the car, these are the plates, and then the new plates, here's the car, these are the plates. I don't know if it's just like a record that he's taking, right? Keeping in mind that he has allegedly been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. So it could be part of his routine, right? That he does something like that. Now, November 22nd, K-bar sheath, the DNA that was on the button snap, was sent for testing. And Bryan Kohberger on that same day searches for a K-bar sheath, but he doesn't complete the purchase. So they say the whole time he's like looking for it on Amazon and he clicks buy now, but then he doesn't finish the process. He's just looking, buy now, and then stops. So on November 27th, he takes more selfies, which are the ones you can see on the right. He doesn't look all that well there. Doesn't look well. Doesn't look very stable there, but these are just pictures from his phone, so who knows. Takes more selfies, searches his own name. Do you guys remember when, right in the beginning, when they arrested him, we had gone over like Google Trends forecast and actually seen, in hindsight, if his name had been Googled, and we saw that his name had been Googled even before the murders took place. And we were like, why would anyone be looking him up? Well, it seems like it was him. Based on everything they shared in this Dateline episode, I'm like, wow, he Googled his own name quite a bit. So it was probably him doing that. On November 27th, he takes more selfies there, searches his own name, and tracks 60 plus murder news items. So they showed Inside Edition, News Nation with Ashley Banfield. They showed Surviving the Survivor and lots of Unsolved No More, and even a Dr. Grande. There we go. November 28th at 2:11 a.m. He watches a Dr. Grande episode which was called Echoes of Ted Bundy, which had photos of Madison Mogen and Kaylee on the thumbnail. Now, on November 30th of 2022, at 6:39 p.m., he Googles his own name again. On December 6th, he searches Amazon for a utility or K-bar knife and sheath. On December 15th at 2:59 a.m., he watches a video with the quote shown on the right, which is, "Something is wrong with me. I can't be who I need to be. Something is wrong with me. Will it last for eternity?" For all we know, that could be a song just with lyrics or whatever. I don't know. So December 21st, 2 more selfies are taken, and you could see them on the right-hand side there on his phone. And December 17th, he arrives in Pennsylvania with his dad. This is footage from December 15th when he drove home with his dad. We also saw that before.
He was right up on that van, man. He was right up on the back end of that van. Pulled you over for tailgating.
Then his family apparently noticed that he was acting oddly. His sister wondered if he could have committed the murders, obviously with all the news of like a white car, a white Elantra, it's in that area, all of that. And so apparently his sister had some suspicions. On December 27th, DNA from the trash was compared to the sheath. And on the same day, Bryan Kohberger was actually watching Ted Bundy, The Essence of a Psychopath. So he definitely did like watching Ted Bundy related content. Was it for his studies? Was it a serial killer that he was fascinated by? Did he want to be like him? I don't know. Okay. But what they said in the Dateline episode is that you see the picture, the top left picture, that would be from the video he watched. And then they said right after that, he took these selfies where they think he's like trying to look like that. Some of these selfies look pretty grim, reaperish, pretty scary to me. But obviously, to each their own. Maybe some people think it looks really great or it's nothing to report on. I think it looks a little bit scary, in my opinion. December 29th of 2022 at 11:53 p.m. Bryan Kohberger was listening to a cover of the Britney Spears song Criminal. And on the right hand side, I just took a little screenshot of it. I've linked the song below for you so that you can go and listen to it yourself, right? But obviously one of the quotes from the song is he's a villain by the devil's law. He's a killer just for fun, right? And then December 30th at 1:14 a.m. he was arrested. Apparently his parents were zip tied. Bryan Kohberger was then put obviously in the back of a cop car. And they say he was making small talk with a police officer like, hey, when this is all over, you want to go get some coffee? I just can't quite imagine that. But I mean, maybe the police officer said that's what he said, which is interesting. There's been a lot of quotes of what he said, like, you know, I'm eager to be exonerated, or did they arrest anyone else? But none of that is actually proven. That's all hearsay in the media. So we'll just have to wait. And I can't wait for the trial. I want to watch this trial with you, even though it's going to be quite a challenge with my time zone. So if you'd like to watch it with me, obviously if there's going to be cameras in the courtroom, which I'm sure there will be, I hope so, then I guess we could just write off the rest of the year from when it actually kicks off, because it's going to be a long trial. So that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will most certainly see you very soon. In the meantime, stay safe.